Hello guys, welcome to your next set of notes. Today we're going to be talking about greatest common factor. So first thing we need to know with greatest common factor is what it means. Greatest common factor is where you want to find the largest factor which in this case is a number, so the largest number that will divide into two or more numbers evenly. So the greatest common factor is the largest factor, or the largest number, that will divide into two or more numbers evenly. It has to go in absolutely perfectly, no decimals, no fractions, no nothing else. Okay, so once again, there are three methods. We are only going to use two of them today, and I will teach you the third one later. So method number one is exactly like method number one from least common multiple. Method number one is make a list. Write out the factors. So once again, we have two steps. Step one, list out all factors, which are numbers that divide into the number evenly. So list out all the factors. They're numbers that divide into that number evenly. So here's what I mean by that. If I gave you the numbers let's try and think of a pretty simple one. Let's do the just example, skip a couple lines. 6 and 9. And I want you to find the GCF, because that's how we abbreviate it, GCF of 6 and 9. I want you to list out all the factors for 6, and I want you to list out all the factors for 9. So I have 6 and I have 9. I ask myself, what times what equals 6? Well, I know that 1 times 6 equals 6. I also know that 2 times 3 equals 6. So those are numbers that multiply together to get me to 6. Nothing else will multiply together to get 6, so I am done. I don't have any more that I can write. It also does not matter that they are not in numerical order, as long as you are listing them out. With 9, I do the same thing. What are the numbers that multiply together to get me to 9? Well, I know 1 times 9, and I know 3 times 3. Now, because it's 3 times 3, I'm only going to write 1 3. I'm not going to write 2. I don't need to repeat that 3, so I'm only going to write 1 3. And then I look at these numbers. This is step 2. You want to circle the largest number they both have in common. So you want to circle the largest numbers that they both have in common, that they both have that is the same. So when I look at this, the largest number that they both have the same, they both have 1 the same, they don't both have 6, they don't both have 9, they both don't have 2, but they both have a 3, and 3 is bigger than 1, so I'm going to circle my 3, and that tells me that my greatest common factor of 6 and 9 is 3. So greatest common factor, your number is always going to be smaller than these two numbers, or it could be one of the numbers. That's fine as well, but it will always be smaller. Where least common multiple, the number was always bigger than those two numbers, or it was the same as one of the numbers. So please be very, very careful. Know the difference. If you know that least common multiple is bigger, greatest common factor must be smaller. Okay, so let's try another one. What about 36 and 45? So I have 36 and 45. So I'm going to go 36, 45, and I want to list out all of the factors, every number that this times this equals 36, this times this equals 45. Put it together. And this is where it can get tricky because these numbers can get very, very large. So I will show you another method. We're just going to do this method first. So I asked myself, what times what will give me 36? Well, 1 times 36 gives me 36. I know that 2 goes into 36 because it's an even number and it's divisible by 2. So I have to figure out what times 2 will give me 36, or 36 divided by 2 is 18. And that'll give me 36. So 2 times 18 is 36. 3. Well, 6 plus 3 is 9, and 3 goes into 9, and that's my divisibility rules. So I know that 3 goes into 36, and 3 goes into 36 12 times, because 3 times 12 is 36. I know that 4 goes into 36, because 4 times 9 is 36. 5 doesn't go into 36. 6. Well, 6 goes into 36 6 times, so 6 times 6 is 36, but because that number is the same, I'm going to leave 1 6. And because I did 6 times 6, I know I have all of my factors. So I can stop there. So 45, once again, I know that 1 and 45 multiply together to get me 45. This is not even, so 2 cannot go in. 3. 5 plus 4 is 9. 9 divided by 3 works, so I know that 3 goes into 45. The question is how many times does 3 go into 45? So I would have to do 45 divided by 3, and that'll end up telling me that it is 3 times 15 is 45. 4 does not go into 45. 5 goes into 45, and I know it goes in 9 times because 5 times 9 is 45. 6 does not go in. 7 does not go in. 8 does not go in. 9, I already wrote down, so I know I have all of my factors. Once you have listed out all of your factors, you then need to circle the largest number that they have in common. Well, I see that we have a 1 in common, but I'm not circling it yet. 36, no. 2, no. 18, no. There's a 3, so I'm going to underline that so I know it's there. 12, no. 4, no. 9, yes. 6, no. So the largest number that I underlined between a 1, 3, and 9 is 9, which means my greatest common factor of 36 and 45 is 9. Okay, I'm going to give you one problem that you guys are going to do for practice using this exact method. So example 3, I want you guys to do 28 and 32. Find the greatest common factor of 28 and 32, just like we did up above here. So use method number 1 to figure that out. Okay, as I said, with least common multiple, method number 1 is not my favorite, but it is here and it is beneficial at certain times. I prefer method number 2. So we are now going to go to method number 2. And the best part about method 2 is it is still called upside down cake method. So it is the exact same method, you just do it slightly differently. Okay, so let's say for instance this is our example. I have 80 and 110. I'm going to write 80 and 110 just like I've done before, and I'm going to draw my upside down cake. I'm going to do exactly the same thing that I did with least common multiple. What number goes into both 80 and 110? You can find any number you want as long as it goes in evenly to both. Well, I see that they both end in a 0, and if numbers both end in zeros, that means I can divide a 10 out of both. So 80 divided by 10 is 8, and 110 divided by 10 is 11. So then I ask myself, can I take anything out of 8 and 11? The answer is no. So now, with least common multiple, we would draw our L. But we are not going to do that this time. With greatest common factor, it is only the number that is off to the side. It is not the numbers that is underneath. It is just the number off to the side, the number you divided into the other number, which means in this problem, my greatest common factor is 10. Because it is the only number, it is the largest number that goes into both. Okay, so let's try another one. Example 2. 66 and 72. Same thing, I'm going to write 66 and 72 down. I'm going to draw my upside down cake. And 66 and 72, the first number that I see that I can take out is a 2, because they are both even numbers. So I have to ask myself, 66 divided by 2 is 33. And 72 divided by 2, I can't do that one. So off the top of my head, I don't know it, I don't have it memorized, I have to figure that out. So then I would have to keep thinking, I would have to divide, I would have to do the math. 72 divided by 2 is 36. Then I see 33 and 36 and still have to ask myself, can I take anything out of 33 and 36? The answer is still yes. Both numbers, I can take a 3 out of that. Because 33 divided by 3 is 11. And 36 divided by 3 is 12. Now I still ask myself, can I take anything out of 11 and 12? Hopefully you guys tell me no, I cannot. So that means that I am done and I have to find my greatest common factor. Well, just like up above, my greatest common factor was just the 10. My greatest common factor are just the numbers that are along the side. So I have a 2 and a 3. And just like with least common multiple, we would multiply them together. I'm going to multiply them together, which means that my greatest common factor in this case is 2 times 3, which is 6. It is the largest number that goes into both numbers. Okay, let's try another one. I have 20, 28, and 36. We can do this with 3 numbers as well. So I have 20, 28, and 36. I need to draw my upside down cake. I need to ask myself the question, what number goes into 20, 28, and 36? It ends in a 0, 8, and a 6, so I know that's all even numbers, so I can take out a 2. 20 divided by 2 is 10. 28 divided by 2 is 14. 36 divided by 2 is 18. I then ask myself, I have a 10, a 14, and an 18. Can I take anything out of 10, 14, and 18? Yes, because they are all still even numbers, so I can take out a 2. 10 divided by 2 is 5. 14 divided by 2 is 7. And 18 divided by 2 is 9. And I ask myself, can I take anything out of 5, 7, and 9? The answer is no. They are all prime numbers. They don't go into any other number. They must stay that way. So, just like up above, I only do the numbers that are along the side. I multiply them together, so the greatest common factor of 20, 28, and 36 is 2 times 2, which is 4. So I'm going to give you one more that I want you to do for homework, that I want you to do on your own. Example 4. Use the upside down cake method for this one, please. And I want you guys to do 35 and 85 and find the greatest common factor that they have in common. So those are your notes. We will practice them tomorrow and the next day. We'll do it for 2 days. Make sure we're fully understanding this concept. So please make sure you get your notes done because it will greatly help you. Have a great rest of your day, guys. Bye-bye.